Good afternoon, guys. We are going to be doing a new thing today. I've decided I'm going to call this one tea time because two of my favorite things are going to be combined here: tea and talking. Tea time is going to be friendly chats, discussions, such whatnots. I'll do Q&As with it. I'll talk about crap that's on my mind. I might possibly do how-tos. It'll be just a little bit of everything. This will be the place where I'm going to answer questions that you ask me. It'll be the place where I just talk about random crap. So I hope you'll enjoy it. Today, I got a new headset. You can't tell. Sound quality in this is much better than my old one. I also got some speakers to finally stop using my 2-bit monitor speakers. Again, sound quality much improved there. Very, very nice. Excellent recommendation to actually go out and spend a little bit of money on doing that. So things should get a little bit better from now on. It's going to take some getting used to wearing a big bulky thing on my head as opposed to what I normally do, which is my little bitty tiny goes in the ear and just comes around. It's basically a phone headset that I just happen to have a USB adapter for. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the better sound quality there. Today, let's start off with the tea that we're having today. It is, let me grab the papers over here. It's a blend of loose leaf tea, Maharaja Chai Oolong and Samurai Chai Mate. Absolutely delicious blend. Probably one of my new favorites. I've been drinking it and a white tea almost exclusively here recently. This is a red tea, so it's a little bit more caffeinated. I'm actually drinking mine cold now. It's not the way you're supposed to drink it, but this is my third or fourth attempt making this video today. I've been trying to make this video all week and failing horribly at it for one reason or another. Mostly because I keep trying to do it in the morning right after I get off work and I get back and I'm completely brain dead. I'm just like, what was I talking about again? And then I'll just sit there and stare at the monitor for like 3 or 4 seconds. And it'll be like, oh, after like the 7th attempt of doing that, or the 7th time of doing that, each time I just kind of stopped the videos and was like, you know what, I'll do it later. It'll be fine. We'll get back to it. Yeah, and I just never got back to it on those days. Moving past that, the subject of today's video is tipping in restaurants. We're going to discuss a few things about it, but first let me say, I'm going to throw this disclaimer out there. Everything that's composed in this video today is pretty much going to be wholly my opinion, and my opinion is formed not only through my experience as a diner in a restaurant, but I also served for several years. So it is going to come from my experience as having worked that occupation. That's going to mean two things. One, that means I am an incredibly tough critic of servers when I go out to eat because I expect them to serve as well as I did. Now, that's not to say that I'm perfect. That's not to say that I made the best tips in the world or anything like that. But I believe it's fairly safe assumption to say that anytime anyone walks into a restaurant, they expect a certain level of service. And my level of service happens to be higher than what I would think most people's would be, because I am a much harsher critic than a lot of people I know, because I've been there and I've done that. So let's throw out some facts, because a lot of people are under the assumption, or I've felt like a lot of people are under the assumption, and I've been told a few times, that a server makes an hourly wage. That's true. A server does make an hourly wage, but that hourly wage is not a living wage. Their living wage comes from the tips that they make. The federally mandated wage that a tipped employee must make is $2.13 an hour. Now, to translate that, your average full-time server works 4 to 5 shifts a week at 3 to 4 hours a shift. So let's just go with the maximum here. They work 5 shifts a week for 4 hours. That's 20 hours. 20 hours, $2 is 40 bucks. That's 40 bucks a week, 80 bucks a paycheck. You don't ever see that. If you're a good server, you don't see that check. And you don't see that check because that money goes straight to the federal government in taxes or Social Security, or it goes to your local government. I'm going to go a little bit further here with this. In the several years that I served, the only time I saw a check was when I was training. My first 2 weeks, when I wasn't even making tips, I saw a check. That's it. The entire rest of the time that I served, I never once saw a check. Not once. So just go ahead and take that preconception that servers are paid an hourly wage and that somehow affects what you should tip them or how much you should tip them. And let's just throw that concept out the window, because it is completely false. In only 7 of the 50 states do servers, is it legally mandated by the state's laws that servers make more than $7 an hour. Most states, servers, it is only federally or state mandated that they make it's federally or stately. The federal and the state laws say is, above $2.13 an hour. And in that situation, they're not going to see a tip, or they're not going to see a check. So it really doesn't even matter. And let's take this, the very last step here. We need to know what the government considers a tipped employee, because that's the whole penance of this entire thing. And honestly, when I look at that, I'm just like, really? Was this law created in like the 30s or something? I actually don't know how long it's been a law around, but if you know anything about, even if you don't know anything about serving, even if you've never been there, if you know anything about math, if you can sit there and do the math on this, which I'm probably going to do for you, this should just blow your mind. What the federal government defines as a tipped employee is any employee who makes more than $30 a month in tips. Okay, now let's do the math here. How many days are in your average month? 30. So the federal government says if I make $1 a day over the period of a month, I'm a tipped employee, and now my employer only has to pay me $2.13 an hour. What? Anyway, Federal government is federal government. We're not even going to get there. The daughter's getting a little bit fussy. So, like I said, take that whole notion that they are paid an hourly wage and that somehow affects your tips and just toss it out the window. I'm going to pause here for a second and see if I can't take care of her. Okay, so we're back with a slightly happier daughter. She's playing with a coaster. It is her favorite. Back to what we were discussing. When you go into a restaurant, there are a few things that you expect from your dining experience. You expect to be treated courteously, politely. You expect to be seated comfortably, to have service that is prompt and friendly. You expect your drink to be kept full. Well, let me rephrase that. You expect your drink to not be empty during the dining experience. You expect your food order to be taken when you're ready for it. Any questions you have to be answered. Condiments and such, and other extras to be brought in a timely manner. For your food to be brought out in a timely manner and served in the consistency that you desired. You expect the server not to be obtrusive, but to still be, the word is failing me. You expect them to be there when you need them, but not to be standing over your shoulder while you eat. Where is it? It's bugging me. There. No! Lay down here! Oh, now there's one in front. Oh yeah, this headset's gonna take some getting used to. My hair is sticking up everywhere. No, I hate you, hair. Lay down. Lay down! I'll just turn my head. Then you can't see it. Anyway, you expect a certain level of service when you go into a restaurant. And when one or more pieces of that puzzle fall apart or are missing, you become an unhappy client. And that issues a whole new set of rules and regulations that a server needs to follow. First, you have the situation where the restaurant is extremely busy and so you were not sat in a timely manner. You had to wait. Sometimes that's a short matter of just a few minutes. Sometimes that's an extremely long time frame. I've gone into restaurants where the wait time has been, over an hour and a half long. And, what else is there to do except wait? And most of the time, by the end of that hour and a half, you're hungry and cranky and maybe a little bit inclined to be upset easily. So at that point, the server, being the face man, is responsible for fixing your bad mood, even though it's not their fault. Did you see my alfalfa? Oh, wow. Gotta love my hair. I will be so glad when it's grown out. Oh, I don't know if you can hear, but the daughter is getting slightly fussy again. poor thing, she's tired and doesn't want to take a nap. So, if everything, when you go into a restaurant, if all of your expectations are met, not exceeded, but met, your server was friendly, your service was good, your food came out correct, you were seated in a decent time, you were accepting of your experience. In my opinion, the minimum that you should tip your server is 20%. 20% is really easy to figure. It's $2 for every 10. That number is that number is more than what I typically hear people say a good tip would be. People being patrons, not servers. That's an important distinction to make here. 15% or very commonly 10% is what I hear far more often. Now let's consider where the majority of people are going out to eat. You're going to be going to chain restaurants, places like Applebee's, Old Charlie's, Cheddar's. I could name a million of them off the top of my head. These places, for two people, you're coming out of there with a $35-ish tip. Now, 15% of a $30 check, you're looking at like $4. But when you go into these places to eat, here's what I want you to consider. You're in that restaurant with that server taking care of you from the time you sit down at the table until the time you hand off the bill with your credit card. Actually, no, not even then. From the time you sit down at the table until you get your credit card slip to sign, you are under that server's care. And you are paying them for a service, to provide you with a service for the duration of that time frame. So if you're there for an hour, which let's think about this realistically, an hour is not an overestimation here. If you and your significant other or your family, be that with small children or going out with your parents or whatever, are going out to eat, you figure you've got about 5 minutes from the time you sit down until you get your drinks. Generally, it's another 5 to 10 minutes before you have your order put in. And then you're looking at about 15, maybe 20 minutes for meal preparation. During that time, you would be eating your appetizers if you had gotten one. So already there, we're up to a half an hour. Then you figure you probably have another 20 minutes or so to eat, at least. That's if you're rushing. Most people take about a half an hour to sit down and actually enjoy the meal and speak and do other things. So, there's 60 minutes. Then you have another 15 or so minutes to do the whole check process. And that's if you're not doing a dessert. So, you're at least there an hour. I'm underestimating when I say an hour. I know people that would come in and they would sit at my tables for, an hour and a half to 3 hours. Hour and a half was about right, about common for how long a guest sat at my table, for how long their tickets were open. And that wasn't because I was holding on to tickets either. I pretty much closed them out and had the table up and cleaned and ready for the next person to sit down immediately, because that's how I made money, is by getting more people in to make tips. So we're going to keep math simple here. You're there for an hour. You have a $30 check. You just told them that their time is worth $4 an hour. And here's the question that people don't ask themselves. Could you support your lifestyle? Could you feed your family? Could you take care of your pets? Could you keep gas in your car? Could you do your health insurance on $4 an hour? No. No. I don't even have to think about that. I do not know of a single soul who could continue their lifestyle on $4 an hour. Okay, let me rephrase it. A single adult who could continue their lifestyle on $4 an hour. And they sure as heck couldn't support a family. Now, most people that are serving, you have two types of people that are serving. You have your college crowd, and then you have your career servers. You know, college crowd is there to make some quick, easy money to work themselves through college, and you know, the careers are obviously there to support themselves. So in both situations, they have a certain lifestyle to maintain. They have bills to pay. Is their time and work somehow any less valuable than your 9 to 5? In my opinion, it's not. In fact, having been there and done that, serving is not an easy job. You know, the people aspect aside, you are on your feet all day, constantly moving, having to remember 15, things at once. You know, it's very mentally demanding. It's very physically demanding. You know, yes, you're not, building a rocket ship. Yes, you're not programming a supercomputer. Yes, you're not handling financial accounts for multimillionaires. You know, you're doing burgers and fries here, to put it simply. But a lot of time and thought and effort goes into that job. And it's, just try it one day. At your next family dinner, have everybody sit down at the table and you not eat. You serve them. Take their drinks out. Keep their drinks full. Don't put the food on the table to have them help themselves. Plate it up and run it yourself. And do that for the entire time that they're eating. It's not easy. It's not exactly what I would call hard, but it's by no means easy. So, why would you pay someone who is providing this service, who's doing this job, less than minimum wage? And you say, oh, well, my check, I went out to eat by myself. My check was only $18. So, you were still there an hour, right? You still got excellent service. Your drink was not empty. Your food was right. Your server was friendly. Things happened in a timely manner. You were pleased. I mean, do you get paid less simply because you had fewer accounts to manage? Oh, okay. That's probably a bad idea, bad thing, because if you're self-employed, then yes, you got paid less or if you're paid on commission. But for the average Joe who makes an hourly wage or a salaried wage, you don't make less based on what you put out. You make less based on the number of hours you work, or if you get a demotion because your salary, and your salary got cut. So their time is less valuable. That's what you're saying. Now that we're there, now that I've said the hard thing, the thing that anytime I've brought it up with friends and family or acquaintances, they've always jumped down my throat. And I know there's going to be the few of you that watch this that are going to jump down my throat and say, I'm just looking for the money or whatever. I don't even know what you're going to say, but you're going to throw some slur out there. That's just my opinion. Honestly, you're going to tip what you're going to tip. So let's move past it. We've got the hard thing out of the way. Got the controversial thing out of the way. Here's how I tip me. And I told you at the beginning, I'm a very harsh critic. I will pick apart my servers. Not entirely, but I do pay attention and I watch. I give some leeway for certain things, and I knock you down really hard for others. We'll start from the bottom. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to start in the middle. We're going to work our way up, and we're going to work our way down. If I am pleased with the service that I received, I will tip at least 20%. Pleased with the service means my drink was not empty for long enough for it to disturb me. And that time frame is, a lot of these things are going to be things that are like, well, that's not definite. You can't measure anything by that. No, it's not. It's an emotional thing, it's my perspective. So it's going to have some flub room in there. So yeah. Okay, my drink wasn't empty for long enough to disturb me. You came and greeted me without me starting to feel antsy about the fact that my server, do I even have a server? You took my order in a timely manner. My order, when it came out to me, was correct. And if it wasn't correct, you took the necessary steps to fix it. Everything was done to a mediocre but completed level. A meets expectation. If you are a meets expectation, I will tip you 20%. If one thing about that stands out to me as being above expectations, that number rises. If I get to the end and I feel that you were just a super fabulous, friendly, but not obtrusive person, I really enjoyed your company and your style of service, it goes up. If my drink never emptied, I have a tendency to drink special drinks, stuff that has to be crafted. I like handcrafted lemonades. I like fruit teas. I like these things. And those have to be made generally by a bartender. They aren't made by the server themselves. So it takes a great amount of planning and foresight to keep that beverage full without me having to prompt you and ask for another one. So if that happens, you take it up to that next level. If I asked for condiments when I ordered the food and you brought them to me, you remembered and brought them to me. Now, I'm saying this one because most people would look at that and they would say, well, I asked for it when I ordered my meal. I asked for A1 when I ordered my meal, therefore it should have come out with the steak. And they get mad when it's not with the steak. But your server didn't run the food. So the person who ran the food wasn't there at the table when you asked for A1, when you ordered your steak. They don't have a clue. So they just brought you your steak. If your server then comes right behind it and sits the steak down, or the A1 sauce down, I like that for two reasons. One, because they had identified a problem, and two, because they resolved the issue before you brought it to their attention. That's pretty doggone snappy. That shows they're observing, they're keeping an eye out, and they have my dining experience set as their top priority. And I appreciate that. I appreciate my dining experience being the top priority. So I'm going to reward that. And I'm going to go above. If I get to the end of my meal and I remember you. I call this one the if I remember your name. Now I call it that because I personally am really horrible with names. I can't remember names for the life of me. You know, it takes, generally if I've remembered your name, one of two things has happened. One, you really hit the wrong nerve. Or two, you really hit the right nerve. That's just kind of how I am. It takes me a while to remember names verbally. I can remember entire conversations, but I won't remember what your name is. And I'll recognize your face 3 weeks later after having seen you once, met you once. But your name is just, it's gone. So if I get to the end of my meal and I remember your name, or I ask for your name again, that means I not only enjoyed my service, you not only met and exceeded my expectations. When I come back to this restaurant, I want you to be my server. And that knocks it up to a whole nother level. If you impress me to the point that I want to come back and sit in your section again, that means you've really done something right. And it's not always something that's, immediately noticeable. It's not that, oh, they gave me a free dessert, or, oh, they did this for me, or, oh, they did that for me. Because those things are most often against company policy. So if your server's doing that, it's not a good thing. So don't be getting all excited about that. They're more than likely breaking the rules, and they're probably going to get fired for it. So, this is going to be stuff like, I just really liked their personality. They were just an awesome, they were on it. The girls out there will understand this. When you go to get your hair cut, if your hairdresser is just sitting there constantly trying to sell you stuff, or all she's doing is talking about her kids and her life, and yammer about random shit that you obviously have no interest in, you don't want to go see them again. It doesn't matter if they did an amazing job on your hair or not. You just don't want to go see them. But if they were active and engaging, you are a whole heck of a lot more forgiving of, the piece of bangs that's just a little bit too long and so it looks a little off. You might not go back and see them, but you're a whole heck of a lot forgiving. It's like I've gone out to get my hair done and had a bad haircut and still tipped 50% because I just liked the person. I go immediately turn around and go get my hair cut somewhere else, but I still liked them. So, if my server, if I get to the end of it and I liked them and I want to remember who they were so that I can see them again because their service was great, their personality was, it was just all spot on. And this is going to strike some people as out of the ordinary, and it is, because I've only like once got a tip like this, but when that happens, I tip at least 50%. If I really, really like them, I will literally just throw an extra zero on there or whatever, depending on the amount. And there have been a handful of times where I've actually gone and I was impressed to the point that I tipped 100%. I've never once gotten a 100% tip. And I don't give that out very often. My whole point in telling you that, when you go out to eat, appreciate your server. Appreciate them. Because they are not only providing you with a service, they're providing you with entertainment. Now, that is a little bit of a controversial statement because not all servers are going to provide you that social entertaining aspect. But the ones that you remember do. And appreciate it. Because how often do you meet someone who's only in your life for an hour, whom you may never see again, who will go out and will honestly care and cater to you? Appreciate it. Now we need to go look at the other end of the spectrum. Before we do that, I have a few disclaimers to throw out there. Your server provides you a service. That service does not include cooking your food. It does not include managing the people who cook the food. It does not include QAing the food before, as it leaves the kitchen. Okay, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't. It does not involve managing the seating arrangements in the restaurant or seating guests. Too many times do I hear and see people who give horror stories about, oh, the worst service they ever had. And it comes back with, well, I had to wait forever before I got to a table. Well, when my steak came out, I ordered it medium rare and it came out well done. I got a piece of beef jerky. Or my server was okay, but the rest of the staff was just horrible. None of those things are in your server's jurisdiction. Your server has no power over them. So what I'm going to ask here is that you don't hold the things that your server doesn't have control over against them. The restaurant was busy, so you had to wait. It's not your server's fault. It's what's your server supposed to do? Kick everyone out after an hour so that you can have your table? That's not how the game works. You wouldn't want to be kicked out, so your server can't really be kicking people out either. Your steak came back cooked the wrong consistency, or some other food issue coming from the kitchen. That one always really got me, because people would be like, well, they should have caught it. That steak didn't even look anywhere near medium rare. You could tell just by, I didn't even have to cut into it. You could tell just by looking at it that it was extra well done. I'm going to give you a little bit of background of how the restaurants that I worked in worked. You have in the back, in the kitchen, you have the preparation people, the people who prep stuff. You have your cooks or your chefs, depending on what kind of terminology you want to use, that actually prepare the dish and plate it for you. And then you have your QA, your quality assurance person, who is responsible for looking over all of the dishes, making sure what's on the plate matches what is on the ticket. Oh wait, there's 4. And then you have your runner. And that's the person who takes it from the kitchen to the table. And that runner might be your server, but it's probably not. Because in the at least in the restaurants that I worked, you had on busy nights, you had a designated person who all they did was run food, and it was every server's responsibility to help run food, which means you weren't running to your table. You weren't standing around waiting for your plates. That person's food was up now, so you were running that person's food, that person's table's food, and then that person ends up running your food. So your server may not have seen your food until they get back to your table to ask you how everything is. So don't hold your steak coming out the wrong consistency, or your broccoli being cold, or getting rice instead of mashed potatoes. Don't hold that against your server. What your server should be held accountable for is, did they fix the problem? And if the answer is no, then hold your server accountable for the fact that they didn't fix your problem. But don't hold them accountable for the fact that the kitchen and somebody else screwed up. That's not your server. And for the love of all that's holy, if you didn't tell your server that something was wrong and you just ate the food anyway, don't hold that against your server. They aren't mind readers. I'm going to tell you a horror story, because this one really just gets to me. I had a table. It was a young couple, a boy and a girl. They were probably in their early 20s. I was in my early 20s at this point too. All through the entire meal, they were super nice talking to me. They were one of my last tables for the night. We were all getting along great. Their drinks were fine. They ate their food. When I asked how their food was, they said everything was good. We get to the end, and I'd already handed them their check. And as they were departing, they pulled my manager aside and proceeded to complain about, the woman proceeded to complain about everything on her plate. She had ordered a hamburger. I was in an upscale, at this point in time, I was in an upscale burgers and fries place. Okay, well, they started off as an upscale burgers and fries place. They kind of become a little bit of everything. But she happened to have ordered a burger and fries that day. She said her fries were cold and soggy. Her burger was raw. The lettuce on it was wilted. The bun was sopping wet, that it was literally just dissolving in her hands because it had soaked up so much whatever. And just ranting and raving about how awful her food was and how horrible their dining experience had been because their food was just atrocious. I sat there and watched you eat it. I asked you several times if everything was okay. Every single time you said yes. If you had said no once, I would have had the cooks re-cook you a new burger and new fries. I would have fixed it, but you didn't tell me. I can't fix it if you don't tell me. I can't look at you eating your hamburger, nom, 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 and know that you are displeased with the quality of your hamburger. I'm not going to go over there and stick my finger in your fries. What's wrong with you? If something is wrong, tell your server. If you don't tell them, they can't fix it. Now, if you tell them and they don't fix it, that's, like I said, not right. So moving on. Things that you should not hold your server accountable for. Long wait times to be seated. Food that comes out initially incorrectly. Other staff members being inconsiderate or rude. And finally, if you order a specialty drink, whether that is an alcoholic beverage or a non-alcoholic crafted beverage, something that has to be made by the bartender, it will take longer to get to your table. Be patient. It's a lot faster to stick a cup up underneath the soda machine and get a glass of Coke than it is to go back and handcraft a lemonade or a tea or mix up a cocktail. It's even longer for them to get a beer for you, where all the bartender has to do is pop the cap off, because your server isn't allowed behind the bar. It's a safety hazard. So don't hold specialty drinks or alcoholic beverages and the time that it takes to get those to you against your server. Now, if you get done with your meal and your glass was empty for an annoying amount of time. Now, that amount of time is different for every person. I know people who, the second their glass gets just that, this much left in the bottom of it, they will stop eating and they will sit there and watch their food until their server gets there. And the fact that their glass got to this low is inconvenient for them and annoying and disgruntling. I think that's a little bit much, but that's just me. I don't drink a whole lot while I'm eating. I generally go through a considerable amount of beverage before the food gets there, and then I'll go through a considerable amount of beverage after I've finished eating. I don't generally drink a whole lot while I'm eating. But that's, again, just me. So like I said, if your beverage was empty for an inconvenient amount of time, that is something that you hold your server accountable for. They failed to provide, they failed to meet expectations. So the tip will suffer. If it takes an inordinate amount of time for a server to come take my drink or my food order, that affects that they aren't meeting expectations then. And so their tip is going to bear the consequence of that. Now, when I say that, that is bearing in mind the time that it takes to get mixed drinks or specialty beverages, the time, how busy the server, how busy the server is, how busy the restaurant is. If my server is in the weeds, if, he has a table of 15 and 2 other 4-tops and then me, I'm okay with him taking a little bit longer to get me my drinks. I'd kind of like to have the correct drink, not Diet or Sprite or whatever. If I wanted a Coke, I want a Coke. I don't want Diet Coke. It's not the same. It's gross. No Diet Coke. So, you know, there's exceptions and there's leeway, and it's not a flat line. It's definitely flexible. You definitely have to make some exceptions and give some leeway to your servers under certain circumstances. Basically, you will know if they have, if it's circumstance or if it is bad service. If it's circumstance, just pull out your patience and twiddle your thumbs the extra minute or so that it takes to get what you didn't have. If I have an issue and my server doesn't move to immediately resolve it, I'll give an example of bad service. This isn't the worst service I've ever had, but this was bad service. I was out to dinner at a steakhouse, and I had ordered a steak. I always order my steak medium. I got my steak back, and my steak was jerky. Now, I'm not one of those people that I'll throw hissy fits because my steak's overdone. But this was literally a piece of charcoal. Literally a piece of charcoal. The thing was charred black on the outside. No clue how it made it out of Q&A. It was charred black. Charred. Like, not just, you know, dark. Charred. It was charred black on the outside. And when I cut it open, I took a bite of it, and the thing was so dry. There was no moisture in it. It literally had sucked the moisture out of my mouth. I took one bite of it, and I couldn't take any more. And so I called my server over, and I said, I need my steak recooked. And my server looked at me and goes, why? And she said it just like that. Why? Why? What? I looked at her and I said, I ordered my steak medium. This is very well done. You know, I normally wouldn't mind so much, you know, but I cannot eat this. This is too dried out. It's too burnt. And she looks at me and she goes, well, I guess I could do that. So I have this thing about people pulling attitude. It makes me want to smack them. Just right upside the back of the head. Just whack. And this chick was about as attitudey as you could get. She was literally, it literally reminded me of a 13-year-old with their entitlement attitude. Where you just want to grab them and shake them and say, the world does not revolve around you. Yeah. She did end up bringing me my steak out about 30 minutes later. It does not take 30 minutes to cook a medium rare steak. Or a medium steak. And it came out and it was medium, but cold. To the touch, cold. Like it had been in the refrigerator cold. Okay, not like it had been in the refrigerator cold, but it was cold. And yeah, her response was basically the same. I was like, this steak is cold. This is not fresh. It's cold. It's cooked the way you wanted it. Yes, it is prepared to a medium consistency, but it is cold. How long has it been off the grill? How long did you let it sit in the window? This is after I had been serving, obviously, before you brought it out to me. Well, I brought it out as soon as it was done. I said, and I looked at her and I said, really now, I suggest you go get your manager. And that is what I recommend. Anytime something goes that horribly wrong, take it to a higher power. We will get to how I tipped her in a minute. That is an extreme case of bad service. For most bad service, for most service issues, if it's a minor issue, generally I'll look it over. Sorry, I am getting kind of tired, so my brain didn't really cooperate with me there. I'll overlook it if it's a minor issue. If it's an annoying enough issue that I actually care, I generally knock you down to 15%. 15% is my way of saying, look, I don't know if you were just off your game tonight or what, but you need to fix that. And it's just like, you need to put just a smidge more effort into what you're doing. That's 15%. 10%, sorry, I have an itch. 10% is my way of saying, okay, either you were really off your game today, or you are not a good server. Maybe you should work on that. Do something. No tip is, look, you just screwed up. I don't want to come back here again, and if I come back here again, I'm not sitting in your section. And I have restaurants that are like that, where I will walk in and I will say, go up to them and, what's the last name, how many, blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, 2 for blah. I don't want so-and-so. Oh, you want so-and-so section? No, put me in anybody but them. I don't want them. I don't like them. Their service is horrible. Don't sit me in that person's section. And they'll be like, okay. I'll be like, okay. And I'll be like, I don't care if I have to wait. I don't want to sit in that person's section. And if I get in and that's the only person there, I will turn around and walk out. I've done it. So now I've got an itch on the other side. Oop, sorry. I bet I just blew your guys' eardrums out. I didn't mean to hit the mic. I'm sorry. That's 0%. 0% is, don't you ever sit me in that person's section again. If you try to sit me in that person's section, and I will get up and leave. That's how much I don't want to be in their section. That's no tip. And then you have what I call the, look, you're in the wrong profession and you need to get out. You suck that bad. You are not only miserable with what you're doing, you are making everyone around you miserable. Just get out. Otherwise referred to as the fuck you tip. That girl that I mentioned earlier, with all of her attitude, and it wasn't just the steak issue twice. It was the whole kit and caboodle. It was literally from the moment we sat down at the table. Our service was that bad. She was doing nothing but giving us lip. Anytime we asked for something, she acted like it was just the most aggravating chore in the entire... It was like I had asked her to go scrub the toilets with her bare hands. Or to go clean cow manure out of the sink or whatever. I don't even know. But it was like I had just asked her to do the most atrocious and how dare I thing ever. And she just, I don't even know if she's still serving anymore, but if I ever walk into a restaurant and see her face again, I will turn around and walk out, because any restaurant that is employing her, I don't want to work there or eat there. That's how bad her service was. If she is even in the building, I will not eat at that restaurant. And in extreme situations like that, where you are that opposed to that person, you issue the fuck you tip. I have done it once to that girl. That's it. Oops. That's the only time I have ever done this. Do not do this unless it is absolutely necessary. Pay with a credit card. And on the credit card slip, write out a 1 penny tip. If your total is $30, you write out 0.01 and 30.01. Write out both numbers so that it is very clear that you are deliberately doing that. And on the note, I actually wrote this chick a note at the end of it. And if you watch this video, please don't hunt me down and kill me, but you really need to get a new job. But I actually wrote on the ticket, I was like, look, honey, you are not cut out for the service industry. Do all of your guests a favor and go work somewhere else. And I stopped the manager on the way out, and I was like, look, our dining experience was horrible, but putting that, or my meal, or what I said was my meal was cooked incorrectly. But putting that aside, our dining experience was horrible. Not because of the food, but because of our server. And I told him, I was like, she was rude. She acted like she was entitled. She left our drinks empty for the majority of our meal. When we asked her to refill them, she said, oh yeah, I'll get right on that, and never brought them. And I just went through and I detailed all of the stuff. And I was like, and I'm sorry, but you have that level of employee still working here? If that is the level of employee that you will allow to continue their employment, I don't want to eat here. And I will not be returning to your restaurant because she was that bad. And of course, the manager sat there and went through and was like, oh, what can I do to make what can I do to make this better? Blah, 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 blah. And all the normal management stuff. Because the manager was fine. And I looked at, he's like, let me get you a gift card so that you and, I forget, I was out with like 3 other people that day. I don't remember if it was friends or family or what. But they were like, let me get you a gift card so that you and your friends or your family or whatever can eat. Can all come in and enjoy a free dinner on us. Let me make this better. And I was like, I looked at him and I said, don't even bother to get the gift card. I don't want money. I don't want money. That's not what I'm after here. I'm telling you, that server is going to drive your customers away. And I'm one of them. And this was a restaurant that I really enjoyed going to. This was a place that I liked the food. I liked the atmosphere. I went in on a frequent basis. The bartender at least knew me, knew my face. I don't think they knew me by name. And this was before I could drink. The hosts knew who I were. They knew which table I preferred to sit at. This is it's not a restaurant that I had gone in once and just threw a temper tantrum and ran off. If the service is that bad that you don't want to go back to someplace that you like, yeah. Why would you? Why would you want money? Money's not going to make that better. But that's why I say you use that only in extreme situations, because that is an extreme reaction. And yeah, to my knowledge, no one that I've ever worked with has had that done to them. And when I've talked to other servers and friends about their dining experiences when they go out, I've only actually had one person that I know of that has ever done that as well. And like they were, another one where it was like, yeah, I did that once and it was god awful. And they were telling me about it and it was, a horrible experience. So only used in extreme situations. Now, we're going to conclude up here because I've talked myself silly. I've gone up, I've gone down. I've told you about the horrible experiences. I've told you about what an awesome thing can be. The things here, I will repeat one more time for those of you who are getting your panties all in a bunch, are my opinion. They are things that are based off of my experience as a server and as a patron. This is not me saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. This is me saying, this is what I do. Feel free to discuss, to criticize, to throw your own opinions out there in the comments here. Try to keep it, actually no, not even try. Keep it civil, no vulgar, no bitching, no pestering one another, no bullying. But I would like to hear some of your guys' horror stories, some of your success stories, I suppose you should call them. Tell me about dining experiences that you've enjoyed, and ones that weren't so great, because I always like hearing about those. And we're going to be signing off here. I have not finished my tea, which was my plan, but I got on a roll and, well, I couldn't stop. I do that sometimes. And we'll see you next time. Achoo!